You're listening to the I'm Busy Being Awesome podcast with Paula Engebretson, episode number 226. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are diving into a powerful way to help you really ignite your creativity and start generating new ideas anytime that you find yourself feeling stuck or you're spinning in overwhelm or you can't seem to move forward for one reason or another. And we're doing this today in a potentially unconventional way. So the topic that we're looking at today is inspired by a conversation that I had with one of my clients last week. It's relevant to say that it is the first week of November when I'm recording this. And last week we were talking about how her Halloween went. Okay. So she lives in California where it is, much more costume friendly weather than it is in Minnesota, where we got 3 inches of snow on Halloween. So she hosts this big gathering on her driveway with lights and food and all things Halloween for her neighborhood. And she was showing me some pictures of this unbelievable Halloween costume or theme of costumes rather, that an entire class, I think it was 7th or 8th graders, but this entire class did together. So apparently the whole class does a theme every year. And this theme, it knocked it out of the park. They were so good. So each person had this giant hot pink box around them. Okay. I can't remember if it was an open front or if it had the kind of clear cellophane in front of it. But essentially, each student went as a different Barbie. Now, if you're listening to this episode outside of real time, this is the year that the Barbie movie came out. So it's relevant this year. And so you had all of these different Barbie and Ken versions, and the students got to choose their different versions. So there was Dr. Barbie and Chef Ken and Basketball Barbie and all of these different Barbies and Kens within the hot pink Barbie doll box. And I thought this was such a fun idea. And as we were talking about it, I realized the thing that I loved so much about this idea is that when you're given a container in which to work, when you are given some sort of constrained container, it really seems like the creative brain comes out full force. The creative brain has even more space to play when put within a container. And that is the concept that I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about the power of constraining our focus or limiting our options in order to create even more options, in order to generate even more ideas and create even more freedom to express yourself on the other side of that constraint. Now, again, I know this sounds completely counterintuitive, and it may not be true in all situations. You could probably find some situations where it's not helpful at all. But I have found this concept, this theme, to be super compelling as I've pondered it over the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to share these ideas and these areas where I do find the concept to prove quite true and be quite useful in case it's a helpful exercise for you to use in your life as well. Because it turns out it's not just helpful for coming up with creative Halloween costume ideas. It's helpful there too. So for next Halloween, don't forget. But turns out there's a lot of really supportive areas where when we constrain our focus, we increase our imagination, we increase our creativity. Now, before we talk about what this actual strategy looks like, I want to explore just briefly why I think it is so impactful. I really like this strategy, especially for those of us with ADHD brains, ADHD tendencies, because it really seems to help bypass overwhelm while also helping us tap into our divergent creative thinking much more naturally. And here's what I mean by that. When the world is our creative oyster and we have everything to choose from and more, when we have all the options available to us, it can feel like too much for our brain. Our brain starts thinking things like, well, I can't get a handle on anything. There's just too much. And it starts spinning in overwhelm. We get in that indecision. We get into ADHD freeze, ADHD paralysis from too much information. And when there's so many options, we really struggle to move forward. But when we limit all of those countless options with one factor or two factors, it gives the brain something to hold on to. And we really support ourselves to step out of that freeze state, and the brain can really kick it into high gear and start thinking more creatively. In other words, by narrowing down all of the countless options into a manageable few, I find that our brains really find this freedom to think much more expansively, to generate new innovative ideas, and to really express ourselves without as much limitation. And again, I know that sounds really counterintuitive because I'm telling you, limit the options to have more freedom. But I really do think it's true in so many situations. And I think that it can really help us to move through the stagnation and the paralysis that comes from too many choices. It doesn't constrict your creativity, it actually unleashes it. It really allows you to explore new options in your mind. And of course, this principle, like I said, goes far beyond the world of Halloween costumes. So let's talk about them. Let's talk about the different areas where we can put this into practice. So first, this past weekend, I was putting together all the final details for the holiday season blueprint. All the details, all the things. By the way, it is out. It is officially on sale right now. It is more than half off. It is just $7. I'm telling you, this document is so comprehensive. It walks you step by step through the entire holiday season to make sure it's one to remember. So do grab it now through the link in the show notes. The discount is good until December 15th, 2023. But seriously, if you've missed that date, don't let that hold you back. This blueprint is gold. It was so fun to make, and there's so much support in there that you can use year after year. So you can head to the link in the show notes or go to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/holiday blueprint. You're going to want to get it. I promise you, it's going to really streamline your holidays and make it one that you want to remember. But anyway, in the blueprint, one of the things that we explore is the topic of gift giving. And in there, I share some different strategies to really help you simplify the gift giving process, because I know for myself, my brain can get really overwhelmed when thinking about all the different options in the entire world that are available to give to the people I love. And so what I really need to do is narrow it down to a couple of different topics, because otherwise I'm going to just spin. I'm going to spend so much time looking at all the different options, never make a decision, and never find anything. And I'm going to stick with the classic gift sets that you can just buy all shrink wrapped together, and it won't be as personal. But when you can bring in a little bit of nuanced constraint, it really lets the brain start imagining different options. So when we can put a container around what we're gifting, this allows us to drop into a creative mode so much more easily. I'm going to give you some examples of what that could look like. Okay, so I encourage you, if you are in the gift giving time of year, if this is on your mind, use some of these strategies if they resonate with you. So, for example, maybe you choose one particular theme to inform your gift giving. Maybe you choose a theme of books this year and you gift everybody on your list one of your favorite books, and you choose the different books based on, what you think they might enjoy. And maybe you write a little note in the cover about why you think this person's going to love this particular book. Or if you are buying multiple gifts for one person, maybe if you're a parent and you have some children and you're buying them a handful of different gifts, I heard this theme that I really love to help ground your decisions, which is something you want, something you need, something you wear, something you read. So here you've already decided each person is going to get 4 gifts, and they're going to be within these different categories: something you want, something you need, something you wear, something you read. Plus it rhymes, which makes it so much more fun. Or maybe if we step out of the holiday gift giving and we think more broadly, maybe you have a 3rd grader and they go to roughly 1 billion birthday parties throughout the year and everybody needs gifts. Maybe you decide that this year's theme is puzzles or something. And so your child picks out whatever puzzle theme that birthday child would like. If they're into Transformers, you get them a Transformer puzzle or whatever. When we can narrow our focus in the world of gift giving, we expand our imagination. I also really love this approach for idea generation generally. So the client that I mentioned that I was talking about Halloween with, she works with small business owners. And we were talking about how narrowing in to talk about one unique challenge that her small business owners face really helps to generate a whole bunch of different ideas for social media posts and blog post content that she can share with them. So let's give you some examples here for all of you content creators, all of you coaches, all of you business owners. Listen up, okay? Try narrowing your focus to expand your creativity. When I think about podcast topics, if I think, okay, well, I need to make a podcast about ADHD, my brain's like, what? That's too much. That's too big. And I would actually end up with a really bland piece of content that's not really helpful to anyone because it's like, here's ADHD. Great. What are we supposed to do with that, right? But when we can zoom in and get more nuanced, that's when it becomes really helpful. When I zoom in from ADHD to ADHD in scheduling, and then I zoom in further to ADHD and unpredictable schedules, and then I zoom in even further to ADHD and unpredictable schedules at work and how to handle them, my brain just lights up then. I have so many more ideas because it's opening up so many doors for topics to explore, right? Pressing deadlines, dealing with bosses. If you have shift work, if you have an unpredictable personal life situation that's impacting your ability to do the work, there's so many more options available when you narrow in and focus on one small area. If you're a website designer, what are 5 things your clients could do to create better conversions above the fold on the website? Notice your brain light up right now as you think about all the different options. And this tactic applies for so many areas, right? Any area. It doesn't just have to be small business owners or people who work online, okay? English teachers, right? If you're an English teacher and you're working with your students on their writing skills, what are 5 different ways that you could zoom in and help your students practice writing from multiple points of view? What are 5 different ways that you could explore that? Or if you're in HR and you're trying to reduce the turnover rate with a particular team, when you think about onboarding specifically, so not the entire experience of somebody on your team, but just the onboarding experience, what are 3 new things you might play around with to try and support those team members from the very beginning of working with your company? Do you see how zooming in on one smaller topic within this overarching goal or this overarching area can really generate so many more ideas? Because again, when we constrain our focus, we open up more avenues for creativity. Let's think about the area of problem solving. This is one that I explore with my clients each round in my small group program called We're Busy Being Awesome. I always tell them at the beginning of the program, the more specific and the smaller the problem you bring, the better. There's nothing that's too small because actually, we often think these little problems, they're not actually the problem. They're not worth solving. I just need to solve for all my procrastination or all my planning issues or the fact that I never follow through on the things that I don't have accountability for. But the truth is, when we have such a big obstacle, the brain usually freezes up and we think, oh, that's too big. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know where to start. And we can't think of all of the different nuanced ways to solve for such a large obstacle because it's too big. There are too many options. But when we instead think to ourselves, okay, I want to make my problem smaller. All right, I'm having a hard time with task initiation and specifically with my work emails at the beginning of the week. Because after 2 days off, I have this big backlog that's piled up and I'm having a really hard time getting started and getting into my inbox at the start of the week. If you can identify that, that is when we can really dig in and start working through and troubleshooting that particular obstacle. That's when we can look at all of the different approaches and consider what's specifically getting in the way and uncover what we're thinking about these emails and how we might release some of that resistance and get started. Or if you're thinking, I just need to get better at routines. I wish I was better at habits and routines. I mean, that's a great place to start. But again, we really want to narrow our focus to identify the specific routine or the specific habit and what's actually going on. So again, we can start brainstorming the supports and the ways that we might approach what's happening, right? Is it a routine that's going to help you get to bed earlier? Is it about remembering to take your medication in the morning? Do you need a habit to help you respond to text messages each day? Is it about putting your clothes in the hamper instead of on the floor? What is the specific habit or the specific routine that you want to lock in? Because when you can clarify that, when you can get really specific, that's when we can lean into our divergent thinking. And that is when we can start taking greater action, more effective action, because our brain is thinking in all of these new creative ways. In fact, for myself, I've been thinking about this through the lens of meal ideas. To be quite honest, I am totally in a rut and completely uninspired and uninterested in doing any kind of cooking. So I've just basically been eating the same 5 or 6 foods over and over. Now, I do want to get a little more variety than that, but when I go just really big and I think about, okay, well, let me just look at all the recipes in the world, my brain obviously freezes. So I've been asking myself, okay, if I know that creating focus and creating constraint inspires more freedom and inspires more ideas, how can I use that here? And I thought, well, what if I only made recipes this week that I eat in a bowl? And then my brain went, ooh, well, we could do soup or we could do burrito bowls. And we could do some salads. And my brain started having all these ideas. And then I thought, okay, well, what if this week I tried cooking with just one source of protein? I do a bunch of that on the weekend, and then I pick all of the meals that I create around that one piece of protein. So, for example, if I made chicken, maybe I would have it just as regular chicken on Sunday, but then the rest of the week I would have chicken burrito bowls and chicken stir fry and some kind of salad with chicken and maybe chicken quesadillas, and then finally some chicken noodle soup at the end of the week. So there's different ways that you can really expand whatever problem or obstacle you're navigating. And when you constrain your focus, you can really start creating some new innovative ways to approach it. In fact, I'm just realizing, in a kind of meta way, this episode itself is an exercise in the strategy. We have one constrained topic that we're looking at, right? Focus only on one thing to expand your creative thinking. And then I'm sharing with you a bunch of different creative ways that we can use this technique. I'm telling you, it's super effective in so many different places. And I would love to hear where you might put it to use, where it is working for you in your life. So pop over to Instagram and let me know. I am at I'm Busy Being Awesome. You can send me a DM or you could post on any of the posts related to this episode. I can't wait to hear what is working for you. And if I hear from enough people, maybe I could do an episode kind of sharing all the different tips and hacks that put this concept into use, and we can share it with everybody. I think that'd be super fun. All right, my friends, that's going to do it for us this week. And if you're loving the podcast or finding it helpful in working with your ADHD brain, would you be a rock star and leave a review? There are step-by-step instructions right there in the show notes. And by doing so, you help get these strategies to even more people. And I really appreciate it. Also, if you're ready to make the most of your holiday season, be sure to grab the Holiday Season Blueprint. It is a lifeline for those of us with ADHD brains to make the most of our holiday season. It is on sale right now, and you can grab it through the link in the show notes or head to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/holiday blueprint. Until next time, keep being awesome. I'll talk with you soon.